Hello, I'm Robbie Carlton. Welcome to video 3 of Learn React in about 4 videos. I'm going to let you know now, it is not going to be 4 videos. It's going to be at least 5. So I'm happy that I wasn't more convicted in my title. But this is video number 3, definitely. There have been 2 videos before this. First one was about what is React, how to get set up, and components. Second one was about state. Go watch those if you haven't yet. They are required to understand this video. All right, here we are. Video number 3 is going to be, hopefully it's going to be much shorter, and it's about forms. So how do we do forms in React? Again, I'm going to start with a simple example that's not part of our app. So we're just going to comment out our columns. And we're going to create a new function, form demo. Okay. Oops. And we're going to render our form demo. And our form demo is just going to have it's going to be super simple. It's going to have an input and a submit button. Okay. There's our form. Okay, I was just added a border to this, and so here's our form. And here's what we would like. We would just like, when you type something in, content, and then hit submit, that it just logs in the console, whatever it is. Or let's say it shows an alert. That's more fun. So let's say it shows an alert with the content. Now, right now, that is not happening. And you'll notice something, there's no form element, right? Like normally, if you're doing HTML, you would wrap all this stuff in a form element. And you would make this a submit button. But you don't need to do that. This is just if you want the browser to handle submitting the form. Now, there are usability reasons to do it, so maybe you still want to do it, but I'm not going to do it that way because just to show you very simply what's going on. It's actually very simple. All you need is your input and your button. But how do we, we want to, so on click, handle submit, and we're going to define handle submit up here. Handle submit. It's going to be a function of no arguments, and it's going to say alert the form the form field said okay. Oh, and just to stop that complaining, we'll do that. So now when we click submit, form field said, what did it say? Okay, we say something. Hi there. So we need to get the contents of that form into that alert box somehow. Now there are a couple of main ways of doing this. I'm gonna just show you one. It's the one that you'll use most of the time, and it's pretty useful early on. It's just the normal one you'd use. There is another way of doing it, which is there are certain use cases where you want to do that, but the main normal way to do it is by using what's called a controlled component. So if we say how we do this is we want to have a piece of state that corresponds with the content of our input, And we are actually, rather than letting the kind of browser manage the input in the normal way, React is going to manage the content of the input. And we, as the programmer, are actually going to manage the content of the input. So what that looks like is creating a new piece of state. So we're going to call it text. And remember, this is how you make state. Use state. Starts off empty. This is the default value. For this one, it's an empty string. Remember, previously we were looking at state, and it was, well, a couple of things. Here it was an array of cards, and in the other example, it was an integer. But now it's an empty string. And then the input, we pass as a prop to the input this value, and value should just be text. So this is our piece of state. We just pass it in. And then another prop called onChange. And into this, we pass a function which takes the event, the change event, and handles it. So it's going to look like this. It's a function which takes an event, which in JavaScript you'll generally just call E. And then it calls setText e.target.value. Yeah. Now, I made a little mistake here because that's not how window.log works. So now let's try it out. Hi there, and submit. Form field said hi there. Okay. So we did it. We got the functionality. Now I want to hi there again. Very imaginative. So, but something I want to demonstrate that's going to be interesting. One thing, I'm just going to move this down because it just makes it easier to read if text is defined before we use it. So, and then I'm going to put in console.log text. Okay. So now what's going to happen, and this is going to, the reason I'm doing this is going to be super informative about what's happening behind the scenes. So before I demonstrate this by using the app, think about what you think is going to happen. As I type into this form field and then hit submit, now that we have this console.log, think about what's going to happen. And you can pause the video, make a prediction, and then see if you're right. This is just as an aside. It's a really useful way to learn programming in general is make predictions about what you think is going to happen, and then see what happens. Because a lot of what you're learning when you're programming is you're learning how to model this system in your mind. And that's the process of modeling, right? You're like, okay, I think this is what's gonna happen. Let's see. And so that's just a really useful kind of mental activity to train yourself into, is making these predictions about what you think is gonna happen with the code that you've written. So that's it. All right. So now, if you haven't already made a prediction, pause, make a prediction. I'm now gonna show you. Hi there. How's it going? So what happened? What happened is it logged out every time this changed. Oops. Let me show you that. Right? Every time this changed, even by one character, it logged the text as changing. And it actually logged it twice. And we're not going to worry about why it logged it twice. That's to do with React internals. But the important part is that every time you change this value, the value of the state, this function re-renders, and console.log is called again with the new value of the state, which means as well a new version of this handle submit function is created with the new value of the state and passed to a new version of this button, which has the new version of the handle submit. So every time you type a single character into that input, all of this code gets run again with the new value in text. And that's just part of that's kind of, it's called the render cycle. So this is the render function, and it's rendering over and over again. And every time state changes, it re-renders. Every time any prop changes, it also re-renders. So that is just interesting to know. But that's how forms work. So now we are going to get rid of this, and we're going to make our add card form work as a form. So right now when you hit add card, you get this kind of ugly, mid-90s user interface where it uses the window.prompt. No one really wants to use this anymore, and it's not a great user experience. So instead, we want this to be a form. And I'm just going to go and grab the code that I did earlier. Well, no, let's do this line by line. All right. So there's two different things going on here. First of all, let's look at the finished app. Okay, so here we have, first of all, we want to expand the form. So we haven't done this yet. This is why I wanted to do line by line. Actually, this is pretty interesting and something you do a lot. So when you click the add button, it expands the form. When you hit cancel, it collapses the form. And then secondly, we want to handle entering text and using that to add a card. So how do we handle this expanding? Pause if you want to think about that. Now I'm going to tell you. We use a piece of state. And the piece of state is going to be called isExpanded. It's good practice to name your booleans is or has. This one is going to be called isExpanded. So to add card form, we're going to add a piece of state isExpanded. And then set isExpanded. And it defaults to false because when the component initially renders, we don't want it to be expanded. And now, if it's not expanded, we just want to show this button. So how do we do this? It's pretty simple. We say if it's not expanded, then we just return this, which is it's pretty similar to what we have here. It's just the onClick is different. I'm actually going to hide that for a second. But we return just the add card button. But with this new onClick function, which is the important part, where then if you click the add card button, it's going to set isExpanded to true. So what happens is when we click our add card button, it sets isExpanded to true. This whole component is going to render again. It's going to come down here. It's going to get to isExpanded. If not isExpanded, well, that's going to be false because isExpanded is going to be true. And so it's going to keep going. It's not going to return here. It's going to keep going to the rest of this function, which we will demonstrate pretty soon. So let me just... So then down here in this other return, this is where we're going to put the expanded form, right? We don't want the simple button. We want the expanded form. So this, I'm just going to take as one piece. Well, no, I keep changing my mind. Right now, we're just going to do this. So we're just going to demonstrate one thing at a time because it's going to make it easier to digest. I'm just being lazy. I don't want to do all the typing, so I want to copy and paste, but actually it's important that we do this one piece at a time. So we're going to add, well, I'm going to copy and paste and I'm just going to remove some stuff. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm not going to worry about any of this right now. And we'll call this handle add. Okay, so now, now this is the expanded form. So if isExpanded is true, then we're going to skip past this. We're not going to return that. And we're going to come down here and return this instead. And this is what's going to be rendered. And this is a form. It has an input, and it has a couple of buttons. It has the add button, and it has the cancel button. So let's see. Here we go. Cancel, add, cancel. Now, we haven't actually implemented the new functionality for the add button yet. So if we do this, hi there, add, Oh, we're in the finished app. So let's try again. Okay, but that still works. Add, cancel. But then if we do this, hi there, and then hit add, then it's just going to give us this prompt again, and this is the one that matters. Yeah, this is the one that matters. So we're adding that, right? So this is the one that matters. So we need to fix that, and the way we're going to do that, come back to add card form. First of all, remember how we do forms. So we need to have the value of this input available to our app. Right now, it's not available to our app in any way. So what we do is we create a new piece of state called text. Could be called anything, but we're calling it text. And we do what we did before. And we say on change. So as you can imagine, this is a pattern that you will use a lot. Now, handle add just needs to call add card with the text. Okay, simple. So let's try that out. New card, add, and there we go. Added the new card. New card again, add, added another new card. So, what's happening here, it's the same thing. Every time we change text, every keystroke, this whole thing re-renders again with this text state being in the new value of whatever is in the input for this render cycle. And so handle add is redefined as a function every render cycle, and this value of text is going to be whatever the current value of text is. And so when you click the add button, this is going to be the value that comes from your input. Again, if that's confusing, you want to try doing console.log and logging your text, and maybe here about to add text. Okay, and then you can hi there, and then add about to add text, hi there, and then there it is. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of those logs, but that is another really useful tool you want to do a lot. Log everything so you can figure out what's happening. But you might have noticed something. This functionality was a little wonky. Wonky. Because when you added the two things, the text remained in the form and the form stayed open. And we probably don't want that. Okay, like it's definitely not what our final model looks like. Final model. So it closes, and then when you open it again, that's gone. So we just need to do a little bit of cleanup. And so the way we do that is in handle add, we, as well as calling add card, we also set the text back to empty. So now, hi there, add. Now it's empty, but the form is still open. And then the other thing we do is set is expanded back to false. And now finally, this will work perfectly. There we go, and our form collapses again. Okay, so that is forms in React using the controlled component method, which is the 95% the way you're going to do it. And if you have any questions, hit me up in GitHub issues or YouTube comments. Next video is going to be about state and about lifting state up, and we're going to be implementing the final piece of functionality, which is moving cards from one column to another. So moving this from here to here. That's going to involve a more advanced concepts around state. So see you then. Thanks for watching and take care.